Chosen one, this person fell in love with you, even with the age difference. God says, my child, listen carefully. You have carried quiet questions that few people could ever understand. You have wondered why certain moments stayed in your heart while others disappeared like mist at sunrise. You have noticed small signs that seemed too meaningful to ignore, yet you were afraid to give them a name. Today I am asking you not to rush ahead of me. Rest your heart in my presence. There is someone whose life was changed after meeting you. They never expected your kindness to leave such a lasting mark on their soul. The difference in your ages became the first wall they saw. Yet it was not the first thing they felt. Before they noticed the years between you, they noticed your compassion. Before they counted the numbers, they remembered the peace they felt whenever you spoke. My child, human eyes often judge what can be measured. I look at the heart. If these words encourage your faith today, quietly write Amen in the comments and continue listening with an open heart. My child, there is something you could not see. While you were praying through lonely evenings, I was also working in places beyond your sight. There were nights when this person opened a Bible and searched for wisdom because they did not want emotions to lead them away from my truth. They sat beside a window while gentle rain touched the glass. They whispered, Lord, if these feelings are not from you, help me let them go with peace. But if they can become something good in your time, teach me to wait. They did not pray for a miracle without seeking my wisdom. They prayed for a heart that would honor me first. That quiet prayer mattered more than anyone around them ever realized. My beloved child, many people around them noticed the age difference before they noticed their character. Opinions came quickly. Assumptions followed. Some smiled politely while silently questioning what they did not understand. Others spoke without knowing the whole picture. Those voices became heavy on this person's heart. They wondered if caring about you meant they had already failed before anything had truly begun. Yet every time they tried to forget you, they remembered the peace they experienced whenever your paths crossed. Peace is not the same as permission. That is why they kept bringing every feeling back to me instead of chasing their own desires. You who are listening, I have never asked my children to build their lives upon fear. I have asked them to build upon wisdom, patience, truth, and love. This person began to change in ways you never noticed. They became gentler with people. They became more careful with their words. They learned to listen before speaking. They stopped trying to impress others because your quiet example reminded them that true beauty begins inside the heart. They never planned for your influence to reach so deeply. Even so, they could not deny what was happening within them. The question that remained was not whether they cared. The question was whether my timing had prepared both of you. My child, there were moments when your own heart felt strangely calm after thinking about this person. You may have dismissed those moments because you believed nothing important could come from them. Perhaps you assumed they had already forgotten you. Perhaps you believed the distance between your lives had become permanent. Yet life often appears silent while I continue working beneath the surface. Seeds do not grow because people watch them. They grow because I faithfully provide what cannot be seen. The same is true for healing hearts. I do not rush what requires careful growth. One evening, after everyone else had gone home, this person remained alone inside a quiet church. Soft worship music filled the room. The wooden cross stood in peaceful silence near the front. They closed their eyes and whispered your name only once. Not because they wished to control the future, but because they wanted to surrender it. They said, "Lord, I trust you more than I trust my own feelings." Tears filled their eyes. They stood up with no clear answer, yet they walked away carrying more peace than before. Sometimes my greatest gift is not immediate direction. Sometimes it is the strength to wait faithfully. My beloved child, love that comes from a healthy heart does not demand. It does not force. It does not manipulate. It learns patience. It respects boundaries. It seeks wisdom before emotion. That is the work I have been doing inside this person. They have been learning that genuine affection is shown through honor, kindness, and self-control. Every lesson has prepared them to become a better reflection of my love, whether your paths join more closely one day or whether I lead each of you differently. Nothing learned in my presence is ever wasted. Now I want you to notice something about your own heart. Have you allowed fear to become louder than hope? Have you measured every possibility by what other people might say? My child, people often see only appearances. I see motives, character, humility, repentance, and growth. I know every hidden prayer that has never been spoken aloud. I know every disappointment that shaped your compassion. I know every lesson that prepared both of you to value people more than opinions. Continue praying instead of worrying. Continue trusting my timing instead of forcing your own. There is another truth I want you to hold gently today. This person's feelings did not remain exactly as they first appeared. They matured. They slowed down. They became thoughtful instead of impulsive. They realized that if anything beautiful were ever to grow, it would have to begin with friendship, honesty, and complete respect. That realization became one of the greatest changes I placed within their heart. What once felt confusing slowly became peaceful because they stopped asking only what they wanted and started asking what honored me. My child, perhaps today you have been searching for certainty when I am inviting you into trust. The future does not become beautiful because every answer arrives early. It becomes beautiful because faithful hearts continue walking even when they cannot yet see the destination. Keep reading my word. Keep serving others with love. Keep allowing forgiveness to soften places that pain once hardened. If you have ever noticed the number 777 and it reminded you to think about my faithfulness, let it simply encourage you to remember that I remain with you in every season. Let your confidence rest in me, not in signs alone. Before this message closes, I want you to carry one quiet thought into your prayers tonight. The greatest obstacle was never the difference in years. The greatest obstacle was fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of misunderstanding. Fear of moving ahead without wisdom. I have been patiently healing those fears one layer at a time. There is still something you do not know about the quiet conversation this person recently had with me. That conversation did not end with a final answer. It ended with a promise to seek my will above every desire. When you discover what happened after that prayer, you will understand why so many unexpected pieces have begun falling into place. Until then, remain close to me, share this message with someone who needs hope today, and when your heart is ready, quietly type Amen. My child, listen carefully. There is something I have not yet allowed you to see because your heart first needed peace before it received understanding. The prayer this person whispered in my presence did not end inside that quiet church. It followed them into ordinary days. They returned to work carrying the same questions. They smiled at people while hiding the battle inside their heart. More than once they decided they would never think about you again. They convinced themselves that walking away would be easier than risking misunderstanding. Yet every time they tried to close that chapter, I gently reminded them that running from their feelings would never teach them wisdom. Only bringing those feelings before me could do that. So instead of pretending nothing had happened, they continued asking me to shape every thought until it reflected my peace instead of their fear. My beloved child, one morning the sunlight entered through their kitchen window while a warm cup of coffee rested untouched beside an open Bible. Their eyes stopped on the words about love being patient and kind. They did not read those verses quickly. They sat quietly, allowing every sentence to search their heart. Then they asked themselves a question that changed everything. Do I truly care about this person, or do I simply like the way they make me feel? That honest question revealed something important. They realized their deepest desire was not to possess you. Their deepest desire was to see you blessed, protected, and surrounded by God's goodness, even if they were never part of that future. That was the moment their affection became less about emotion and more about genuine care. You who are listening, there were small moments that seemed ordinary to everyone else, yet they remained unforgettable to this person. They remembered the kindness in your voice. They remembered the respect you showed to people who could offer you nothing in return. They remembered the way you listened instead of rushing to speak. Those simple moments stayed alive in their heart because true character leaves a deeper mark than outward appearance. While others focused on the difference in your ages, they quietly admired the way your faith shaped your everyday life. That became the memory they carried whenever doubt returned. My child, not everyone understood what was happening inside them. A trusted friend noticed the change and gently asked why they seemed so thoughtful lately. For a long moment they remained silent. Then they admitted they had developed feelings they never expected. The friend immediately asked about the age difference. The room became quiet. Instead of defending themselves, they simply answered, "I am asking God to guide me. I refuse to let emotions decide what only wisdom should decide." Those words surprised even them. They realized I had already begun changing the way they faced difficult questions. They no longer wanted quick answers. They wanted my direction above everything else. My beloved child, while this was happening, I was also working inside your own heart. There were disappointments from your past that still needed healing. Old fears still whispered that people would eventually leave. You had learned to protect yourself by expecting less from others. I understood every hidden wound. That is why I never rushed this season. Healing cannot be forced. Trust cannot be built overnight. I was teaching both of you lessons that would become precious later. One heart was learning patience. The other was learning to believe that healthy love does not arrive carrying fear, but peace. There came another evening when this person stood outside beneath a sky filled with quiet stars. A gentle wind moved through the trees as they looked upward and whispered, "Father, if you want me to let this go, I will obey. If you want me to wait, I will wait. Just don't let me act without your wisdom." That prayer pleased my heart because surrender always opens the door for my guidance. They walked away without hearing an audible answer. Still, they carried an unusual calm they could not explain. Sometimes my response is not spoken through dramatic moments. Sometimes it is planted as quiet confidence that slowly grows stronger with every faithful step. My child, I know you have wondered why certain people enter your life only to leave again. I also know why this connection has continued to return to your thoughts. Not every memory is an invitation to chase the future. Some memories remind you how I have been shaping your heart. This connection has become one of those reminders. It has taught you to pray more deeply. It has taught you to trust me instead of leaning only on your own understanding. Even before you receive every answer, I have already been transforming the person you are becoming. There is one truth I want you to carry today. Real love is never measured by the number of birthdays two people have celebrated. It is measured by humility, respect, sacrifice, honesty, and a willingness to place me first. Age alone cannot create wisdom, and age alone cannot destroy kindness. Every heart must still choose truth. Every life must still choose faithfulness. That is why I have been watching far beyond appearances. I have been shaping character where human eyes could only see differences. Before this moment ends, I want to leave you with one more quiet revelation. This person has recently reached a decision that they have not shared with anyone around them. They have decided they will no longer allow fear or the opinions of others to control every step they take. Instead, they will continue seeking my will with patience, honesty, and respect. They believe that if I have written something beautiful for the future, no amount of misunderstanding will erase my purpose. Yet they also know they must never run ahead of my timing. My child, what happened after they made that decision is something neither of you expected. That unexpected moment is where I will continue speaking to your heart next. My child, listen closely. After that quiet decision, nothing changed overnight. The sky did not suddenly open. Every question did not disappear. Life continued with its ordinary rhythm. Yet something inside this person became different. They no longer woke each morning wondering how to control the future. Instead, they began asking how they could become more faithful today. That simple change transformed the way they looked at every conversation, every choice, and every prayer. Their heart became steadier because they finally understood that peace is not found in knowing every answer. Peace is found in trusting the one who already knows the ending from the beginning. My beloved child, there was a Sunday morning when sunlight filled the church through stained glass windows. Soft worship music surrounded the room. Families sat together while quiet prayers rose from every corner. This person remained seated after the service ended. Everyone else slowly walked toward the doors, but they stayed where they were. They closed their eyes and whispered, "Lord, thank you for teaching me patience. Help me never mistake emotion for your direction. That prayer carried no demand. It carried surrender. As they stood to leave, they noticed a small wooden cross near the front of the sanctuary. It reminded them that real love always begins with sacrifice, humility, and grace. You who are listening, I also saw your hidden battles. There were evenings when you smiled in front of others while carrying silent questions inside your heart. You wondered if waiting had any purpose. You wondered if hope only led to disappointment. Yet every time those thoughts became heavy, I quietly reminded you of my faithfulness through small moments. A kind conversation. A peaceful sunrise. A verse that seemed to appear at exactly the right time. These were not accidents. They were gentle reminders that I had never stepped away from your life. My child, this person began noticing something they had overlooked before. Every meaningful memory they treasured about you had nothing to do with appearance or age. They remembered your patience with strangers. They remembered your honesty when it would have been easier to stay silent. They remembered the respect you showed to people who felt forgotten. Those memories became more valuable than any passing emotion. They realized that what first touched their heart was not excitement. It was the quiet evidence of character. Character lasts when feelings are tested. That realization gave them even greater respect for the work I was doing inside both of you. My beloved child, there were still moments when fear returned. Fear rarely disappears all at once. It often leaves one quiet step at a time. On one difficult afternoon they almost convinced themselves to stop praying about you completely. They believed silence would protect them from disappointment. But before they closed their Bible, their eyes rested on words about trusting me with all their heart. They smiled through tears. They understood that avoiding prayer would never produce peace. So they prayed once more, not asking me to fulfill their own plans, but asking me to shape their heart into someone who could honor me regardless of the outcome. You who are listening, I want you to understand something important. I never waste seasons of waiting. While you believe nothing is happening, I continue building patience where impatience once lived. I continue replacing fear with wisdom. I continue healing old wounds that could have damaged future relationships. Many people only celebrate visible blessings. Few recognize the invisible preparation that made those blessings possible. That preparation is one of my greatest gifts because it protects what I choose to build. Then an unexpected moment arrived. It seemed ordinary at first. This person was helping someone who needed encouragement after a difficult day. As they listened with compassion, they suddenly realized something beautiful. The kindness they had admired in you had quietly become part of their own life. Without noticing, they had begun treating others with greater gentleness because your example had challenged them to grow closer to me. They smiled softly and thanked me for using one faithful life to inspire another. In that moment they understood that love should always make people more like Christ, never less. My child, perhaps you have wondered whether people can truly change. The answer is yes, when they willingly place their heart into my hands. Transformation rarely announces itself with loud words. It often appears through quiet choices repeated every day. A little more patience. A little more forgiveness. A little more humility. That is exactly what I have been nurturing inside this person. The difference is not only what they feel about you. The greater miracle is who they are becoming because they chose to seek me first. Before I close this moment, keep one truth safely within your heart. The question has never been whether the age difference could become the center of attention. The real question has always been whether both hearts would continue growing in wisdom, integrity, and faith. That answer is becoming clearer with every faithful step. There is still one conversation waiting to happen, one quiet moment neither of you can yet imagine, and when that moment arrives, you will better understand why I asked both of you to wait with patient hearts instead of hurried ones. Until then, remain close to me, keep praying instead of worrying, and allow my peace to guide every step you take. My child, listen carefully. There is another reason I asked both of you to slow your hearts instead of rushing toward conclusions. The world often teaches people to decide with their eyes before they understand another person's character. I do not work that way. I begin where no one else can see. I begin inside the heart. While others were still forming opinions from a distance, I was quietly shaping humility, wisdom, and patience within both of you. That hidden work mattered more than any conversation taking place around you. What I build in secret becomes the strength that carries my children through seasons that cannot be avoided. My beloved child, there came a quiet afternoon when this person found an old notebook tucked inside a drawer. Between its pages were prayers written many months earlier. They slowly turned each page. Some prayers had already been answered in ways they never expected. Others were still waiting in my hands. Then they reached a page where your name had been written beside a simple request. Lord, help me honor you before I follow my emotions. They paused for several moments. Their hands trembled gently. Looking back, they realized I had already answered part of that prayer. I had changed their heart before changing their circumstances. They smiled with gratitude because they finally understood that my greatest miracles often begin inside a person long before anyone else notices. You who are listening, I know there are days when you question whether your quiet obedience matters. You continue praying. You continue forgiving. You continue choosing kindness when bitterness would seem easier. Sometimes you wonder if anyone sees those hidden choices. I see every one of them. I have never overlooked a single tear you wiped away before anyone else entered the room. I have never forgotten the prayers you whispered while driving alone or lying awake at night. Nothing offered to me in faith is ever ignored. Even when heaven feels silent, my hands are still at work in places your eyes cannot reach. My child, this person also began noticing how much fear had once controlled their decisions. They remembered the first time they realized their heart cared for you. Instead of joy, fear had arrived first. They worried about misunderstandings. They worried about what relatives might think. They worried that the difference in your ages would become the only thing people talked about. But every time fear tried to lead them, I gently called them back to wisdom. I reminded them that fear is a poor guide for anyone who desires to walk with me. Wisdom listens. Wisdom waits. Wisdom prays before speaking. One evening they volunteered to help at a community outreach organized by their church. They spent hours serving meals, greeting strangers, and listening to people who simply needed someone to care. On the drive home they realized something beautiful. For several hours they had not been thinking about themselves at all. Their heart had been filled with compassion instead of anxiety. In that quiet realization they heard my gentle reminder. This is where love becomes strong. It grows when you learn to serve instead of seeking your own comfort. That lesson stayed with them long after the evening ended. My beloved child, I also want you to remember that healthy love never asks you to abandon the wisdom I have placed within you. It never demands that you ignore wise counsel. It never asks you to compromise your faith or your peace. Instead, it encourages honesty, patience, and respect. This person has been learning those lessons one by one. They have discovered that genuine affection becomes stronger when it is surrendered to me rather than hidden behind fear or driven by impulse. That is why their heart no longer feels the same as it once did. It has become calmer. It has become steadier. It has become more willing to trust my direction than its own emotions. You who are listening, there is something I want you to notice about your own journey. Months ago you may have reacted quickly to uncertainty. Today you pause before making decisions. You pray before speaking. You seek peace instead of panic. Those changes did not happen by accident. They are evidence that I have been shaping you through every season you once believed was empty. Growth is often difficult to recognize while it is happening. Only when you look back do you realize how far I have already carried you. Then another unexpected moment arrived. This person heard someone speak carelessly about relationships built only on appearances. Instead of joining the conversation, they quietly walked away. They remembered how easily people can judge situations they do not truly understand. As they stepped outside, a gentle breeze moved through the trees. They looked toward the evening sky and thanked me for teaching them not to measure another person's worth by outward differences. They understood that every life carries a unique path, and every faithful decision should begin with prayer instead of public opinion. My child, I want your heart to remain peaceful because my timing is never careless. If I ask you to wait, there is purpose in that waiting. If I ask you to grow, there is beauty waiting on the other side of that growth. I have been preparing conversations that cannot happen before the right season arrives. I have been opening hearts that once seemed closed. I have been removing fears that once appeared impossible to overcome. None of those quiet victories happened in a single day, yet every one of them has brought both of you closer to the people I created you to become. Before this message pauses, hold tightly to one final truth. The greatest evidence of this person's love has never been dramatic words or hurried promises. It has been the quiet decision to keep placing their heart into my hands, again and again, until my peace became greater than their fear. Very soon, another gentle moment will unfold that neither of you has planned. It will not begin with excitement. It will begin with honesty. And when that conversation finally comes, you will understand why I asked both of you to trust my wisdom before trusting your own understanding. That my child, listen closely. The honesty I have been preparing will not arrive through pressure or confusion. It will arrive quietly, just as the morning light enters a room without asking permission. This person has learned that truth never needs to shout to be heard. For many months they believed they had to solve every question before taking another step. Now they understand that faith often begins where certainty ends. Instead of chasing every possible outcome, they have chosen to remain faithful in the place where I have planted them. That choice has brought a peace they never thought possible. It has also prepared their heart for something deeper than they imagined. My beloved child, one afternoon they found themselves walking through a peaceful park after finishing a long day. Children laughed in the distance. Gentle wind moved through the tall trees. Birds filled the air with quiet songs. They sat alone on a wooden bench and watched the sunlight dance across the grass. In that simple moment they remembered something you once said about appreciating the little blessings people often overlook. A smile slowly appeared on their face. They realized your words had remained with them long after the conversation ended. It was not because the words were extraordinary. It was because they were spoken with sincerity. Genuine kindness has a way of staying alive inside another person's heart. You who are listening, I want you to understand that your life has touched more people than you realize. Sometimes you believe your quiet acts of compassion disappear unnoticed. They do not. I have used your gentle spirit to encourage weary hearts. I have used your patience to calm anxious minds. Even when you walked away believing nothing important had happened, I was allowing your faithfulness to leave lasting seeds inside people you may never fully know. This person is one of those lives. Your example quietly challenged them to become more thoughtful, more patient, and more willing to seek my wisdom before following their emotions. My child, there came a conversation with an older believer whose wisdom had been shaped by many years of walking with me. This person finally shared the burden they had been carrying. They spoke honestly about their admiration for you. They admitted they were concerned about how others might view the difference in your ages. The older believer listened without interrupting. When the conversation ended, only one sentence was spoken. Do not build your future on fear, but do not ignore wisdom either. Let Christ remain at the center of every decision. Those words settled deeply into their heart. They realized I had answered another prayer through quiet counsel instead of dramatic signs. My beloved child, after that conversation they became even more careful with their intentions. They stopped imagining futures that had not yet been placed before them. Instead, they focused on becoming the kind of person who could reflect my love in every season. They became more faithful in small responsibilities. They honored their family. They served their church with joy. They encouraged friends who were struggling. They discovered that the closer they walked with me, the less they felt controlled by uncertainty. Their heart was becoming stronger because it rested in my hands instead of its own expectations. You who are listening, perhaps you have wondered why I have not revealed everything at once. If I showed you every detail before your heart was ready, you might focus more on the destination than on the transformation taking place today. I care deeply about where I am leading you. Yet I also care about who you become while you are walking there. That is why my timing is always filled with purpose. Every delay that seems confusing to you has been an opportunity for deeper faith, greater wisdom, and lasting peace. One quiet evening this person opened their Bible once again. The room was silent except for the soft sound of rain outside. They read about trusting me with every step instead of leaning only on human understanding. Then they closed the Bible, folded their hands, and whispered, "Father, if this path is not yours, close the door with kindness. But if you are teaching both of us through this season, help me remain patient until your peace becomes clear." There was no struggle left in that prayer. There was only trust. That trust became one of the most beautiful offerings they had ever placed before me. My child, I also want your heart to remain humble. Never allow pride to replace patience. Never allow assumptions to replace prayer. Continue bringing every hope before me with open hands. Remember that real love grows stronger when it is built upon honesty, respect, and faithfulness. Those foundations never lose their value. They become even stronger when tested by time. What others measure with outward standards, I measure by the condition of the heart. I know every hidden motive. I know every sincere prayer. I know every quiet sacrifice made in love. Before this message pauses once more, hold on to this truth. The difference in age has never been the center of what I have been shaping. The center has always been the condition of two hearts learning to trust me above fear, above public opinion, and above their own uncertainty. Very soon, a simple moment will arrive that appears ordinary to everyone else. Yet for both of you, it will quietly confirm how much I have changed your hearts during this season. When that moment comes, you will not remember the waiting with regret. You will remember it with gratitude, because you will finally see that every prayer, every tear, and every patient step was preparing you to recognize my peace when it arrived. My child, listen carefully. As this message comes to its close, I want you to leave with peace instead of pressure. Do not spend your days trying to force answers that I have not yet revealed. Do not allow fear to become louder than my voice. I have seen every prayer you have whispered. I have seen every moment when you chose faith instead of bitterness. None of it has been forgotten. Even when the road felt long, my hand never left yours. Even when you believed nothing was changing, I was quietly changing hearts, opening minds, and healing places that only I could reach. My beloved child, remember what I have been teaching you throughout this season. Love is never strengthened by fear. It is strengthened by truth. It is strengthened by patience. It is strengthened by kindness, respect, and faith. If a connection is truly meant to honor me, it will never require you to abandon wisdom or compromise your peace. It will encourage both hearts to become more compassionate, more humble, and more faithful every single day. That has always been my desire for you. You who are listening, never believe that your value depends on another person's decision. Your worth was settled long before anyone knew your name. You are loved because I created you. You are precious because I formed you with purpose. Whether people understand your journey or misunderstand it completely, my love for you does not change. Build your confidence upon that unshakable truth. When your identity rests in me, you no longer need the approval of every voice around you. My child, continue praying instead of worrying. Continue choosing forgiveness over resentment. Continue trusting my timing instead of rushing ahead of it. There will always be people who judge only what they can see. Do not become discouraged by that. Keep your eyes on me. I know every detail that others cannot see. I know every hidden motive. I know every sincere prayer. My wisdom reaches far beyond human understanding, and my plans are always guided by perfect love. If this message has brought hope to your heart, share it with someone who may also need a reminder that God is faithful even in seasons of waiting. Let your life become a testimony of patience, grace, and trust. And as you leave today, do not carry anxiety with you. Carry peace. Walk forward knowing that I am with you in every step, every prayer, and every tomorrow. My beloved child, lift your eyes toward me whenever uncertainty returns. I will continue guiding you with wisdom. I will continue strengthening your heart. I will continue working in ways you cannot yet see. Trust me one day at a time. My grace is enough for today, and my mercy will meet you again tomorrow. If this message has spoken to your heart, quietly type Amen. Then walk forward in faith, knowing that my peace will always lead those who place their trust in me.